Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a concept that might seem deceptively simple at first: the power of 10 minutes.
10 minutes. It's not a huge chunk of time in a day, is it? But we're going to explore how, when viewed through the lens of Buddhist philosophy and paired with what we're learning from modern science, those 10 minutes can become this sort of surprisingly potent tool for creating real change in your life.
It's about those small actions that we take every day
Yeah.
and how those can ripple outward, shaping our reality in ways that we might not even realize right away.
Exactly. It's like that old saying, right? Big things have small beginnings.
Mhm.
Often, those seemingly insignificant moments, the choices we make within those 10 minutes, can set into motion these really powerful shifts in our lives. We're going to explore how to really harness that potential, how to make those 10 minutes work for us, not just in a fleeting sense, but in a way that creates lasting transformation.
And how we can kind of consciously infuse those 10 minutes with intention, use those small moments to create those big waves in our lives.
Yeah. So, have you ever stopped to think about what you could accomplish if you dedicated just 10 minutes each day to an intentional practice? And I'm not talking about just, passively letting time pass. I'm talking about really showing up for yourself in those 10 minutes. We're talking about being fully present, engaging in practices that nurture your well-being, and really aligning those actions with your deepest values and aspirations.
So, to really kick things off, let's dive into a story. This story beautifully illustrates this principle of small actions, big waves, drawing from the ancient wisdom of the Himalayas.
Right. This is the story of a young monk named Tenzin.
Now, Tenzin, despite his sincere efforts in his spiritual practice, he felt this kind of like this nagging doubt.
Yeah, those doubts we all face sometimes. Like, am I really making a difference?
Exactly. And so he wondered, are these short daily meditations, just 10 minutes here and there, snatched amidst his duties, are they really making a difference in my path to enlightenment?
You can almost hear him asking, can something so brief really hold so much power? It's a question a lot of us have, isn't it?
Absolutely. It resonates. And it's in this moment that his teacher, an elder monk who had walked this path for many years, really steps in to provide a beautiful teaching moment.
So picture this. They're sitting by a flowing river, watching as the water rushes downstream. The teacher points to a single leaf, drifting along with the current, and he asks Tenzin, where do you think this leaf began its journey?
And of course, Tenzin couldn't know the exact origin.
No, how could he? All he could know was that it must have come from far upstream, carried by the current, all that way.
And this is where the teacher's wisdom really shines through, doesn't it?
It does. He explains to Tenzin that while the leaf's journey began far away, every little push from the current, each gentle eddy, all of it carried it to where it was at that moment.
And then he turns to Tenzin and says, your practice is like this leaf. Each moment of meditation, no matter how short it feels, propels you further along the stream toward understanding.
It's such a powerful analogy, isn't it?
It is. It really highlights how it's the consistency, the showing up day after day, that ultimately creates momentum and leads to progress.
Exactly. It's not always about those grand, dramatic efforts. Real transformation often comes from those small, consistent steps taken with intention, with presence, with that understanding that those small actions are creating ripples that extend far beyond what we might see at the surface.
And what's fascinating is how modern science is now starting to back up this ancient wisdom. The field of neuroscience has shown us this remarkable ability of our brains to change and adapt throughout our lives, what we call neuroplasticity.
Yeah. And neuroplasticity essentially means that our brains are constantly being shaped by our experiences, our thoughts, and our actions.
So those repeated actions, even those lasting just 10 minutes, can actually rewire those neural pathways in our brains, creating lasting shifts in how we think, feel, and behave. It's like building new roads in the landscape of our minds.
And that's so empowering, isn't it?
It is, because it means we have the ability to consciously create the change we want to see.
Absolutely. And it really underscores the point that those small, intentional actions we choose each day can have a profound impact on our overall well-being.
Now, can you give us some concrete examples of how this might work in practice?
Okay, let's think about the simple act of cultivating gratitude. Research shows that dedicating just 10 minutes each day to writing down what you're thankful for, just making a list of things you appreciate, can lead to some significant increases in your overall happiness. It can improve your sleep quality, It can even strengthen your immune system.
Wow, and it seems so simple, doesn't it?
It does, and I think what's really happening there is that by consciously focusing on gratitude, we're training our brains to notice and savor those positive aspects of our lives,
Yeah.
even of its challenges.
It's like we're shifting our mental lens, focusing on the good instead of constantly dwelling on the negative.
Exactly. And the more we use those pathways of positive thinking, those neural connections related to gratitude and appreciation, the stronger they become. It's just like exercising a muscle.
So are you saying we should be spending those 10 minutes focusing on gratitude instead of, maybe scrolling through social media or worrying about things we can't control?
I mean, I think that's a really valuable question to ask ourselves. How are we choosing to use those 10-minute increments throughout our day? Are we using them in ways that uplift and nourish us, or in ways that drain our energy and reinforce those negative thought patterns?
Right. It's about making conscious choices.
It is. And it's not just about gratitude either. Consider mindfulness practices, Even short bursts like 10 minutes of meditation or a few minutes of focused breathing can make a difference.
And we've talked about mindfulness before on the show, but can you give us a quick recap of what it really means and why it's so beneficial?
Sure. Mindfulness at its core is about paying attention to the present moment without judgment. It's about becoming aware of our thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations without getting swept away by them. And the benefits of even short bursts of mindfulness practice are really remarkable. Studies have shown that they can activate the prefrontal cortex, which is that part of the brain responsible for our higher level thinking, focus, and emotional regulation.
So basically, we're giving that part of our brain a little workout.
We are. And even a short investment of 10 minutes can lead to a reduction in stress. It can increase our mental clarity, boost our focus, and even improve our overall well-being.
So what you're saying is that we all have this incredible power within us to shape our minds and our realities through these small intentional actions.
I am. It's about realizing that every single day is an opportunity to plant those seeds for the future we desire. It's not about waiting for some big dramatic shift. It's about showing up consistently, moment by moment, and making those choices that align with who we want to be and the life we want to create.
And that brings us to another really important concept in Buddhist philosophy, right? Karma.
Yeah. And it's important to understand that karma isn't some kind of cosmic punishment reward system. It's not about some external force judging our actions.
It's not about, good deeds getting you points and bad deeds getting you demerits.
Exactly. At its heart, karma is simply the principle of cause and effect. Every thought we think, every word we speak, every action we take plants a seed in the garden of our experience.
It's like that ripple effect we talked about. Those actions, those choices have consequences even if we don't see them right away.
Exactly. Some seeds might sprout quickly, others might take longer to manifest, but those seeds will grow.
Yeah.
And so those 10 minutes you dedicate to practices like meditation, mindful journaling, or even just a conscious walk in nature, you're actively cultivating positive seeds in your karmic garden.
So it's not just about immediate gratification, is it?
It's not. It's about understanding that those small actions we take today are shaping our future experiences.
So by dedicating those 10 minutes, we're not just benefiting ourselves in the present, we're making an investment in our own long-term growth and well-being.
You got it. It's a powerful statement. It's like saying to yourself, hey, I'm worth this time, my inner peace, my personal growth. It's valuable.
And I think it's also inspiring to look at the lives of those who have achieved great things.
Right. When you really look at the stories of people who have made a significant impact in the world, you rarely find that their success was just this, sudden overnight event. It was usually the result of years of dedicated effort, of showing up day after day, making those small contributions, even when they might have felt insignificant at the time.
It's about the persistence.
It is. It's that unwavering commitment to showing up, even in those small ways, that ultimately leads to those big breakthroughs.
So for our listeners who are feeling inspired, what's a good starting point? How can they actually begin to harness this power of 10 minutes?
Well, I'd say a great place to start is to simply take 10 minutes, not tomorrow, not next week, but today, and dedicate those 10 minutes to an intentional action that aligns with the person you want to be.
And it can be something small, right?
Absolutely. It could be a few moments of quiet, focused breathing. It could be jotting down a few things you appreciate in a gratitude journal. It could be visualizing a positive outcome you're working towards. Just trust in the power of that small beginning. Don't underestimate it.
And as we move forward, I want to talk about something that can really amplify the power of those small actions. We've talked about those 10-minute practices, but now let's dive into the why.
Right, the intention behind what we do is just as important as the action itself.
And in Buddhist philosophy, intention or satana is seen as this very potent force. It's like this inner compass that guides the energy of our actions.
Exactly. And when your actions are fueled by clear, positive intention, even those small 10-minute investments, they become incredibly effective catalysts for transformation,
Yeah.
not just within yourself, but in how you interact with the world around you.
So it's like adding fuel to the fire of those small actions.
You could say that. It's like, imagine you're in a completely dark room. You light a single candle. Now that flame might seem small, but its light immediately begins to dispel the darkness.
And that's a beautiful image because it shows how even a small act, when done with purpose, can really illuminate the path forward.
Exactly. And when you approach your 10-minute practices with a clear intention, with a deep understanding of why you're doing them, it can make those actions so much more meaningful and impactful.
And how does this idea of intention connect with the Buddhist principle of right effort?
Well, right effort is a core part of the Noble Eightfold Path, which is essentially a roadmap for awakening in Buddhist philosophy. And right effort isn't about pushing yourself to the point of exhaustion or striving relentlessly.
It's not about burning yourself out.
Definitely not. It's more about consciously directing your energy towards those things that are truly beneficial. It's about cultivating wholesome qualities like kindness, patience, wisdom, while gently letting go of those unwholesome tendencies like anger, greed, or negativity.
So it's about making those 10 minutes a focused opportunity to really nurture the good within you.
That's it. Picture your mind as a garden. If you leave it untended, weeds will grow those negative thoughts, unhealthy habits, difficult emotions. They'll take root and spread. But if you dedicate even 10 minutes each day to tending that garden, consciously pulling out those weeds and planting seeds of positivity, your inner landscape will flourish in remarkable ways.
Yeah.
It's like spring cleaning for the mind.
It's a beautiful analogy, and I think it brings us back to the practice of mindfulness meditation.
Right. When you sit quietly for those 10 minutes, focusing on your breath and gently guiding your attention back whenever it wanders, you're essentially training your mind. You're cultivating focus. You're building emotional resilience.
You're learning to be present with yourself.
Exactly. And this ability to be present isn't something that's confined to those formal meditation sessions. It could be woven into even the most ordinary moments of our day.
So we can bring that mindfulness to everyday tasks.
Absolutely. Like when you're washing the dishes, really pay attention to the sensory experience. The warmth of the water, the feel of the soap, the sounds of the plates clinking. When you're walking, focus on the sensation of your feet connecting with the ground, the rhythm of your steps, the sights and sounds around you. These little micro moments of presence, when infused with intention, they accumulate over time. They build that foundation of mindfulness that can permeate your entire experience.
It's about turning those everyday activities into opportunities for practice.
It is. And what's really interesting is how this aligns with some of the latest research in psychology. Dr. B.J. Fogg's concept of tiny habits.
Right. He talks about starting with incredibly small actions.
Yes. And his research shows that creating lasting change is often most effective when we start with actions that feel almost effortless. It's about building consistency first.
And then from that consistency, we can gradually expand those habits.
That's the idea. And this aligns so beautifully with the Buddhist principle of gradual cultivation, or pavana. It's the understanding that lasting transformation, whether it's awakening or any significant personal growth we're aiming for, it doesn't usually happen overnight. It's a series of small, consistent steps taken with intention and patience. It's about trusting the process.
So it's about embracing those small, consistent efforts, knowing that they're laying the groundwork for those bigger shifts we want to see.
Exactly. And it's really encouraging, isn't it? Because it means that anyone can start creating positive change, even with just a few minutes each day.
Absolutely. Now, would you mind sharing a story, an example of how someone might apply this power of intention and small actions in their daily life?
Sure. Think about Sarah, a busy professional who is feeling constantly overwhelmed. Her days were packed, her to-do list was never ending, and her mind was always racing.
The classic story of the modern world,
Yeah.
right? Always on the go.
Yeah, it's a common experience these days. And Sarah learned about the benefits of gratitude, and she decided to try incorporating a tiny habit into her routine. Every night before bed, she would spend just 10 minutes writing down 3 things she was grateful for from that day.
It sounds so simple.
It is. And initially, I'm sure it felt like just another thing on her to-do list. Some nights, she probably struggled to even come up with those 3 things.
That's relatable.
Absolutely. But she stuck with it. She committed to that 10-minute ritual. And over time, something really interesting started to happen. She started noticing those positive aspects of her day more readily. A kind word from a colleague, a moment of beauty on her commute, a small success at work. Those 10 minutes weren't just improving her mood before sleep. They were actually retraining her brain to focus on and appreciate the good in her life.
It's like she was rewiring those neural pathways.
Exactly. And the results were pretty amazing. She reported feeling less stressed overall, her relationships improved, and she even found a renewed sense of purpose in her work. It's a really beautiful reminder that even the most ordinary actions, when performed with intention and consistency, can lead to those extraordinary results.
And that story really brings us back to this idea of rituals, right? How both Buddhist tradition and modern psychology recognize the importance of incorporating rituals into our lives.
Yes, rituals, even brief ones, can provide structure and really help to ground us in the present moment. And they can really infuse our days with a deeper sense of meaning.
So what are some examples of those small rituals that people could incorporate into their lives?
Well, think about the simple act of lighting a candle before you meditate, or taking a few mindful breaths before you start your workday. Even those little things can create a sense of sacred space in the everyday.
It's about those little pauses that help us to reset and reconnect with ourselves.
Exactly. And these rituals don't have to be elaborate or complicated. They can be as simple as choosing to make your morning cup of tea with mindful attention. Really savoring the aroma, the warmth of the mug in your hands, the taste of each sip. It's about bringing that intentionality to even the most mundane activities.
And if we can do that, those everyday tasks can become little pockets of mindfulness throughout our day.
That's it. So for our listeners who are ready to start harnessing this power of 10 minutes and really infusing it with intention, here are a few practical ideas to get you started.
Okay, so what's the first step?
Well, a great way to begin is to start your day by setting a clear intention. Take 10 minutes each morning to really ask yourself, how do I want to show up today? What qualities do I want to cultivate?
It's like setting your compass for the day.
It is. And you might even want to create a small dedicated space in your home, even just a corner for reflection and those 10-minute practices. Having a designated spot can help you create a sense of ritual and make it easier to stick with your practices.
It's like creating a little sanctuary for yourself.
It is. And don't forget about the power of movement. Mindful movement, like gentle stretching or a short walk, can be a great way to start the day or de-stress in the evening. And as you move, really pay attention to your breath, the sensations in your body, the feeling of your feet connecting with the ground. It's about bringing that present moment awareness to the physical experience.
And what about ending the day?
Ending the day with a little reflection can be incredibly powerful. Take 10 minutes before bed to review what happened during the day, what you learned, and what you're grateful for. It can help to process any difficult emotions, let go of the day's stresses, and cultivate that sense of peace before sleep.
So it's about creating bookends of intentionality for your day.
Exactly. And remember, it's okay to experiment. Try different practices, whether it's meditation, journaling, visualization, or anything else that resonates with you. The key is to find what works best for you and what you can commit to consistently.
And remember, transformation isn't about perfection. It's about showing up consistently, even when you don't feel like it, and trusting that those small intentional efforts are creating ripples of change that extend far beyond what you might see in the moment.
Absolutely. It's a journey, not a destination.
And now, I'd love to explore the deeper implications of this practice, how those consistent daily choices can actually lead to a profound awakening within.
Right, this is where we delve into the heart of Buddhist philosophy, the idea that through these small, consistent efforts, we can awaken to our true nature, what's known as Bodhi, or enlightenment.
And enlightenment isn't just some far-off concept, is it? It's not something that only happens to monks meditating in caves.
No, not at all. It's about realizing that inherent wisdom, compassion, and potential that exists within each and every one of us.
So it's accessible to everyone.
It is, and it begins right here, right now, with those conscious choices we make within those 10 minutes each day. It's about cultivating those qualities that allow us to live more fully, more authentically, more in alignment with who we truly are.
And there's this beautiful paradox here, isn't there? We often think that profound personal growth requires those huge, dramatic changes. But the truth is that those most significant transformations often come from the simplest actions, consistently applied over time.
It's like that saying, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. It's about recognizing that those small, intentional choices we make each day are those steps that lead to those big shifts we desire.
And that brings us to the concept of non-striving, doesn't it? A central idea in Buddhist philosophy.
Right, and non-striving doesn't mean being passive or giving up on your goals. It's about letting go of that need to control the outcome. It's about cultivating trust in the process. When we approach those 10-minute practices with that attitude of non-striving, we free ourselves from the pressure to get it right or achieve some specific result in that moment.
It's about showing up with an open heart, an open mind, and just doing the practice without getting too attached to the outcome.
Yes, it's like planting a seed. You prepare the soil, you plant the seed, you water it, you give it sunlight. But you don't stand over it, demanding it to grow faster.
You trust the natural process.
Exactly. And those 10 minutes you dedicate to nurturing yourself are like planting those seeds of transformation.
Yeah.
Trust that those roots are forming, that growth is happening, even if you don't see it right away.
So it's about cultivating patience and allowing those small, consistent actions to work their magic over time.
It is. And the core part of this awakening, this inner growth, is cultivating presence. It's that ability to be fully present in the here and now without getting lost in regrets about the past or worries about the future.
Right, and the Buddha taught that so much of our suffering comes from clinging to the past or worrying about the future.
It does. And it's through practices like mindfulness that we can begin to break free from those patterns. When we anchor ourselves in the present moment, even for those 10 minutes of focused breathing, we start to experience a sense of peace that's independent of external circumstances. It's about cultivating that inner stillness amidst the chaos of life.
And that sense of presence has practical benefits too, doesn't it? It's not just some esoteric concept.
It's not. Research shows that people who practice mindfulness tend to manage stress more effectively. They make clearer decisions. They even cultivate healthier and more fulfilling relationships because they're more attuned to their own emotions and the emotions of those around them. They're able to respond with more wisdom, more compassion, instead of reacting impulsively.
So it's about bringing that awareness, that presence to all aspects of our lives, not just those 10 minutes of formal practice.
Exactly. And as we cultivate those qualities within ourselves, it's important to remember that this transformation doesn't happen in isolation.
Right, it's not just about us.
It's not. It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected. Every action we take, every thought we think, has a ripple effect that extends outward. It impacts those around us.
It's like that pebble in the pond.
Exactly. And this interconnectedness is a core principle in Buddhist philosophy, pratityasamutpada. It's the understanding that our individual well-being is inseparable from the well-being of the whole. So when you cultivate kindness, compassion, and peace within yourself during those 10 minutes, that energy radiates outward. It influences your interactions, your relationships, and ultimately contributes to a more positive collective experience.
And it can be inspiring to others as well.
Absolutely. Just seeing someone committed to their own growth and well-being can be incredibly inspiring to those around them. It can give them permission to do the same. And so, as you continue on your own journey, remember that those ripples you're creating, those positive shifts in your energy, are having a far greater impact than you might realize.
So for our listeners who are ready to step into that power to become the architects of their own reality, what are some practical steps they can take?
We'll start by taking some time today to really clarify your vision. What does the life you want to live actually look like? How does it feel? What are those core values that are truly important to you? And then see how you can align your daily actions, especially those 10-minute practices, with those values. It's about making those choices that are in alignment with who you want to be and the life you want to create.
It's about bridging that gap between our aspirations and our actions.
It is. And don't forget to celebrate those small wins along the way. Every step forward, no matter how small, is worth acknowledging. It helps to keep us motivated and build that momentum. And remember to stay curious, stay open to new experiences, and embrace that lifelong journey of learning and growth. There's always something new to discover, both within ourselves and in the world around us.
And finally, as we begin to wrap up our deep dive, let's touch on one last really profound insight that I think ties everything together beautifully.
Get the last piece of the puzzle.
In a way, you could say that the universe responds to the energy we put out into it. Every thought, every feeling, every action carries a certain energetic frequency.
It does. It's subtle, but it's there. And when we consistently dedicate those 10 minutes to cultivating positive qualities like mindfulness, gratitude, and intention, we're essentially raising our energetic vibration. And when our energy shifts in that way, the universe tends to respond in kind. we start to attract experiences and opportunities that resonate with that higher frequency. It's a fascinating concept.
So what you're saying is that our inner state can actually influence our outer reality.
Yeah. And while the mechanisms might be complex and not fully understood, the underlying principle is really powerful. It's about recognizing that the choices we make, the energy we cultivate, it shapes our experiences.
So the big question we want to leave our listeners with today is this. What kind of energy are you consciously choosing to cultivate? Are you resonating with fear and doubt, or with love and possibility? And remember, that choice, that initial shift in energy, can begin with those 10 minutes you dedicate to yourself each day.
Choose wisely, right?
Absolutely. So as we bring our exploration to a close today, remember that core message. Those 10 minutes a day, when infused with intention and practiced consistently, can truly be a powerful catalyst for transformation. It's about drawing on that ancient wisdom of Buddhist philosophy and those modern insights from science to really create those lasting shifts in our lives.
And we encourage you to take some time to reflect on what resonated most with you today. What specific examples or practices felt most meaningful? What small 10-minute commitment can you make to yourself starting today that will help you move closer to that life you envision?
And as you embark on that journey, remember this. Those small intentional actions you take, those ripples of positive energy you create, they have the power to transform not only your own life, but the world around you. Thanks for joining us.